Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and a very warm welcome. Have you ever thought about how a sacred text can have these incredibly strict, detailed laws right next to the most profound messages of mercy, sometimes in the very same passage? Well, today we're going to dive right into that. We're exploring the first 10 verses of Surah An-Nur, which means the light from the Quran, to see exactly how this delicate and honestly fascinating balance is struck. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll see how this text establishes its absolute authority. Then, we get into a very strict public law, but, and this is the key, we'll see how it's immediately balanced with some really powerful protections for personal reputation, all under this big, beautiful theme of divine mercy. All right, first things first. We've got to understand the sheer weight behind these words, just as it's presented in the very first verse. This really sets the stage for everything that's about to follow. Right away, you can feel it. This opening isn't presented as some beautiful poetry or a simple story. No, the text immediately announces itself with the full force of divine law. It's a command, basically saying, listen up. And to really get the divine intent here, the source material actually breaks down the specific Arabic words being used. This shows us that what's happening here, it's not just a suggestion, it's a binding mandate. Look at how these three terms build on each other. It's pretty amazing. Anzalnaha means it was deliberately, purposefully sent down. Then faradnaha comes in and makes it binding, not optional. And finally, ayat bayinat tells us that these rules are unmistakably crystal clear. Put them all together and you get this incredibly powerful message. What follows is not up for debate. It's a blueprint for society. Okay, so now let's get to the verse that, let's be honest, often causes the most shock. And let's see how the source explains its very specific purpose inside this whole legal framework. So, verse 2 lays down this severe public punishment. And the source material points out something interesting, that this is pretty much intentionally designed to shock modern sensibilities, which, of course, brings up a really important question. So, what's the logic here? What's the stated reason behind a punishment that seems so harsh from where we stand today? Well, the text provides a very specific social reasoning for it. You see, the goal here isn't about shaming individuals for private mistakes. The text frames this as a measure to protect the entire social fabric from chaos using public deterrence. But, and this is probably the most critical piece of the whole puzzle, this punishment can only be applied after meeting a legal standard of proof that is, by its very design, almost impossible to meet. And this right here, this just brilliantly illustrates the internal balance of the system. I mean, no sooner is a harsh law laid down than an even stronger protection is put right in its place. This is the counterweight. So, verse 4 establishes this incredibly high bar for evidence. It's not enough to suspect something or to have heard a rumor. Nope. 4 people have to have physically witnessed the same act at the exact same time. Just think about that for a second. The standard itself tells you that its application is meant to be extraordinarily rare. Now, look at this. This is where it gets really powerful. If you make an accusation and you cannot produce those 4 witnesses, the punishment for you, the accuser, is incredibly severe. 80 lashes and a complete loss of legal credibility for life. Your testimony will never be accepted in a court again. What this structure makes perfectly clear is that the system is far more concerned with protecting people's reputations from slander than it is with trying to police private behavior. It creates this powerful shield against gossip and false witness. Okay, so that raises a question. What happens when there are no outside witnesses? Because the accusation is happening within the most private relationship of all, between a husband and wife. Yeah, this is a unique and incredibly sensitive situation, right? Bringing in 4 witnesses is just impossible. So the text provides a special legal process to handle it, a process known as li'an. And the root of that word is actually related to invoking a curse, which kind of hints at the seriousness of what's about to happen. So what this process does is it effectively takes the judgment out of human hands. It becomes this series of solemn oaths made directly before God. The husband makes his claim, and he invokes God's curse upon himself if he's lying. And here's the beautiful point of balance. The wife is given the exact same legal power to defend herself by doing the same thing. So this isn't about a judge trying to guess who's right. The source describes it as this profound spiritual process where the stakes are eternal. It's really designed to make a person pause and think about the gravity of their words. Okay, let's bring this all home now and tie it all together with the theme that frames this entire legal structure. And that theme is mercy. Without it, the whole system is just incomplete. This is such a critical point, even for the person who made a false accusation, the one who faces that severe punishment. The door to repentance and restoration is always left open. The message is pretty clear. Islam punishes damaging actions, not souls, and reform can always restore a person's dignity. And then verse 10 ends with this really powerful, almost unfinished sentence that just hangs in the air. It reminds the reader that this entire legal system is built on a foundation of divine mercy. The source puts it so beautifully. Law exists because mercy exists, not the other way around. So ultimately, what we've seen throughout this whole explainer is this core principle of balance, right? Every single strict rule is carefully and deliberately counterweighted by a powerful protection or a clear path to mercy. These really are the foundational pillars that these first 10 verses establish. A clear, non-negotiable stance on public morality, an almost sacred level of protection for personal reputation, a demand for hard evidence over emotional accusations, and, in the end, the final, ultimate authority of mercy. And this leaves us with a final, really thought-provoking idea from the source material. The surah is named the light. And what it argues is that true illumination for a society isn't just one thing. It takes both. Light without discipline just blinds you. But discipline without mercy? That just brutalizes. You need both, that structure and that compassion, for it to truly work.